Hello and welcome. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story, our independent digital platform that brings you some of the biggest newsmakers and the most interesting voices from across the world. Now, today, before I introduce my guest, which one of us has not used parachute hair oil at some point or cooked with Saffola? Those are the brands you know, but do you know the story of the company that built not just these brands, but many, many more? A company with a market cap of over 68,000 crores, a company that transitioned successfully from being a family firm to one of the FMCG giants of the world. We're talking about Marico and a fascinating account of its making by its promoter and chairman, Harsh Mariwala. Let's bring up who we'll be meeting in just a moment from now. Our newsmaker on the program today is out with his book, the story of his journey called Harsh Realities, a description for the times we live in, perhaps, but also a pun on his own name, which of course is Harsh Mariwala. As I said, Mr. Mariwala has successfully created some of the brands that are household names, and he's often said that he believes in doing business the old way. What way is that? That's what we're going to ask him and understand from him, even as we look at his fascinating journey from Bombay Oil Industries to a Fortune 500 company. And remember, we are talking to him at a time when the Indian economy is trying to emerge from the shadows of COVID 19. What does the India story look like in a post pandemic economy? These are some of the questions as we bring up a very interesting newsmaker, the author of Harsh Realities, a story of how he built Marico. Let's bring on the program now Harsh, and welcome. It's been really interesting going through your book. And, you know, I was struck by the fact that you were just 20 years old when you joined the family business. And it would be many years later before you were actually able to convince the family elders to give you separate management of the consumer goods division. And in some ways, reading your book, and your book, in fact, starts with that, it feels like that was perhaps the most painful and the most difficult part of your journey. Could you talk a little bit about those years?
Yes, so I didn't get into MBA school. I was not that bright in studies. And my father didn't trust me. He thought maybe I'll never come back. So I joined the family business, the eldest from the next generation, joining a family business which was typically family managed in the heart of commodity markets, very crowded locality. And I was left loose. There was nobody to guide me really, so I had to find my own roots in terms of what I wanted to do. And in that explorations, I realized that I could convert that edible oil division, which was mainly selling edible oil in bulk, unbranded. If I can convert that to the branded route, I will build a business which is far more profitable, far more sustainable. And that's how I started visiting interior markets. And to cut a long story short, it grew. We did a lot of innovations in the area of packaging. Parachute and Saffola gained market shares. It became a profitable business. And at that time, as you rightly put it, I wanted some independence in terms of managing the company. I didn't want independence in terms of financial ownership, but managing that company. And it was by then 3, 4 of my cousins that joined business. So we had 3 different divisions: edible oils, spice extracts, and chemicals, and there was no synergy between them. So I was finding it very difficult to operate in that environment where I was not able to attract good talent because it was perceived as a family managed company. The office location also didn't help. So it was very important for me to uh, get into a situation where the whole business was managed by me at a different location. And I took almost 2 to 3 years to convince the family that please allow me to
Yeah.
do so. And then, to me, looking back, that has been the most important milestone in my journey. If I had not made that happen, I would have been struggling dealing with family dynamics, not able to attract
Yeah.
good talent. So it was very
Yeah.
important. At one level, it sounded relatively easy, but when you look at a family, large family, one has to have a lot of patience, Barka, and I took 2 to 3 years to convince the
Yeah.
family to get a consensus, but it's been fully worth it.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating account. And I learned from reading your book that, in fact, 70% of businesses worldwide are, in fact, family firms or start off like that. And India ranks the third globally in terms of how many businesses are run and owned and managed by families. Now, the question always is this: how do you ensure a professionalism in a family run firm, and has it been difficult for you? You see, there were two, I would imagine, two things that were difficult for you. One was to get your own family to allow you autonomy, but how
Yes.
difficult has it been for you to allow your managers and colleagues who are not part of your family similar autonomy?
So I think it's a very good question. I think many family members are or family managed companies are finding it difficult to, first of all, to attract talent, and then to create an environment where the professional talent can flourish. I think the starting point is, what is your role as an entrepreneur, and what are you offering to professionals to allow you to join or to attract you to join your company. And there is a war for talent. There is a huge shortage of talent. So you need to create a certain employee value proposition which will attract talent. And at that time, we realized that if we offered things like meritocracy, openness, empowerment, innovative culture, I think that would enable us to attract good talent. And I was the only person from the family managing it. I have to deal like a professional. I can't deal like a family member where whatever suits me is gets done. It has to get done on merits, and the organization's interests come first, and then only the promoter's interest. Many times I've seen in Indian family businesses, the promoter's interests come first. But if you're running a public company where you have majority ownership, you are not the only owner. You are a part of the
Yeah.
owner. You may be a majority owner, but you are not the only owner. So you have to take into account the fact that you have other shareholders and you are accountable to them, and you have to do something which is in organization's interest. So from day one, I put in a lot of effort to ensure that the influence will not work, to have an open, trusting culture, empowering culture. And I think
Yeah.
that played a very,
But
very important role.
now, one of the interesting things is that a lot of Aam Janta will know your products more than they'll know your company name. You see, if you follow the markets and you follow business, of course, everybody knows you're a hugely successful organization. But just Aam Janta, which buys consumer products, they'll know Saffola and Parachute maybe more. You
Yes.
write in the book about how you could have named the company after your products, but you decided not to. Your company is also named as a spin-off on your surname, much as your book is a pun on your first name. So why did you decide not to, let's say, name your company Parachute, which is probably your most recognizable brand? I use Parachute hair oil. And, and,
Okay.
and what's the story behind Parachute? I know a lot of people would want to know.
So you're right. I thought about it, but when you have two babies, you can't say that I want to name one baby. And the name Parachute for a company name did not sound good to me. I also looked at other professional companies like FMCG companies like Hindustan Lever or Procter and Gamble. They had multiple brands, but they had taken the family name of the family, which formed the name of the company. So after a lot of thinking, I decided that instead of naming the company Parachute or Saffola, it's better that I name it uh, after my surname, and that will also give me some freedom in terms of getting into other newer brands and things like that. So I think that's a decision I took after a lot of thinking at that time, partly getting influenced by some of the bigger names like international names like Procter and Gamble or Levers.
And what was the link between Parachute hair oil and the World War? What was how did Parachute come to be called Parachute?
So Parachute is actually it has multiple uses. It's a coconut oil. We also have other extensions which are hair oils, but mainly it's coconut oil. And it was launched much before I joined, but it was mainly available in big tins. And at that time, my uncles were looking at something which was unique. That time, in the World War days, the Parachute was something very unique. So they decided to name it Parachute. When I started to convert that market from large tins to small tins, a lot of my friends, family said that please change the brand name because it is not good enough for you to brand your to make your brand under the name of Parachute. But I don't know why, but I just didn't listen to them, and I decided to continue the same name. And looking back, it's paid off. It's in the sense that
Yeah.
it's worked out.
Yeah. But the book, like till I read your book, I would never have thought that these are the challenges that entrepreneurs face. You mentioned the transition from oil being sold in big canisters to small, let's say, plastic bottles, and how
Yeah.
difficult it was for you to get the company to do that, to get the market to shift in that way. These are the kind of challenges you would never think people have while building their companies. Talk a little bit about that. Why today we take it for granted. We go and buy oil. We're used to getting it in small packages that we can take home, small bottles that we can take home, glass or plastic, but it wasn't always that easy.
So you're right. I was looking at what is for any packaged products. Normally the starting is do it in loose form, but over a period of time, as the wealth increases, as the economic growth improves, there is a tendency to go into package. So for two reasons: one is it's very convenient. Otherwise, you have to carry a container to the shop, and you have to get the oil filled, and you're not sure of the quality. So when you buy a branded product, you get assured quality. You don't have to take the trouble of getting a container to be filled, which could be adulterated or a bad quality. So we are assuring purity and nourishment under the brand name. And also there is a feel good factor of buying a brand. So it's an automatic process. I think as the country progresses, the people start converting from loose to pack. And as of today also, there is at least 30 to 40% of coconut oil being sold in loose, especially in rural areas. So the whole thing has happened because of conversion and because of brand assurance and convenience.
Now, you had sort of market predators, as it were, wanting to buy out some of your products, buy out some of your divisions. And I'm talking, of course, about Hindustan Lever and a very sort of aggressive, sort of predatory eye that it had on Marico. Talk about that time and how you fended it off. You also had an IPO
Yeah.
out. You said it hit your shares. So speak
Yes.
about that.
So we went public in the year 1996. And at that time, Hindustan Lever had acquired Tomco, which is Tata Oil Mills Company. As a part of that acquisition, they had inherited a brand, Tata Niyar Coconut Oil, and they thought that they could take us on by giving us a fight. We had gone public, so we were visible in public eyes, and they were very serious about their intent. They also acquired one other brand in coconut oil, Coco Care, and they went in their public into the distribution route, and the analysts made that we will we will actually defeat Parachute and take over huge market share from them. At that time, they were riding very high because they had scored big victories in the oral care segment, in the toothpaste segment against Colgate through their brands Signal and Pepsodent. So it was scary because they are giant, and that time were much bigger than what we were that time. We were doing a turnover, I think, 500 or 600 crores totally as a company. And so there was the fear. And a lot of people told me also to sell out. The whole objective of them doing one objective was to acquire us. And I got approached through multiple routes to sell out. Some of my friends felt that I could sell out and encash and enjoy life. But to me, that is not enjoyment life, just to sell out and make money. So I was determined that I will not sell out because I was quite sure that we are very strong. We understand this business much more than them, and we should be able to take them on. We have a strong brand. We have good quality. We are good in marketing. Only area where we were relatively not so good compared to them was distribution, and especially rural distribution. So we took a lot of steps to improve rural distribution and over invested in our brand. And they launched a few times, three, four, five times over a period of 4 or 5 years. They got some market share, but not at our cost. They got it at the cost of some smaller players. And at some stage, they started losing interest in this category. And at that time, I used to meet the Lever chairman and then I told them that why don't you get out of it because you're neglecting this category. And at some stage, they decided to sell the brand. I was under the expectation that they will come to me and ask me to buy, but they decided to go in for an auction, wherein most of the Indian FMCG players participated, and we also participated, and we were very keen to acquire that brand. We didn't want to lose out, so we went aggressive in terms of our acquisition bid, and that worked out in our favor. And So from being selling out to a MNC, we bought the brand, which was a great source of, shall I say, joy
I can
at that time.
imagine.
Yeah,
I can imagine. Now
yeah,
you have, you have, and when I say you, I mean Marico has managed to defy the sort of economic, downward turn that the country is going through because of two phases of the pandemic. We could be looking at a third.
yeah.
How have you, what have you done as a company to remain afloat at this time, to remain above water at this time?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think we have invested prior to this, we have invested a lot in our culture building. And as I mentioned earlier, our culture is very open, boundaryless, empowering. And when all of a sudden the first lockdown was announced, we started working on virtually. And luckily, everybody has computers at home, the whole team. And then they started, within 4 or 5 days, our factory started operations. We had a lot of challenges in terms of reaching to our distributors, reaching to retailers, and we took a lot of innovative steps to ensure that our products were available through e-commerce as well as through retail outlets. Wherever the distributor was shut, we got that information through geo-mapping. We went directly to retailers. So supply chain was a big challenge. And then we also over invested in terms of giving assurance to our own members in terms of meeting their anxiety. Not only that, but we saw that as an opportunity to reach all the family members because everybody was at home. So we did a lot of programs for all the family members, whether it's spouses or children or parents. So depending on what their needs were, cooking classes, exercise classes, contests, hobbies. And I think that gave us a great opportunity to be close to our family members of our employees, So that really
Yeah.
helped us a lot. The whole leadership also played a very, very important role in giving authentic information to people in terms of what's happening to us. When the second wave hit, also we went overboard in terms of ensuring that we sorry, in
No,
ensuring
it's
that
okay.
we
I was just thinking the phone can never stop ringing for a busy man like yourself. So we
no,
understand
no, no,
you're
I'm in a
traveling.
hotel room and I think
I know
my
you're
I
traveling.
know.
You're in a hotel room, and the phone rings. It's perfectly natural for a man who's running the company of your size. But let
No,
me
no,
make it
no.
simpler for you by
Yeah,
asking you
yeah.
basically this: how do you look at the economy today? Do you spoke about an agile work culture that was able to adapt quite quickly to this challenge? But is the worst behind us? You have a new sort of GDP forecast from the International Monetary Fund at 9.5%. Your company was not hit, as we were just discussing, but the economy and the state of the economy matters to us all. What is your reading of the state of the economy currently and its management?
So I would say that the second wave was much easier to operate because we had learned from our mistakes of first wave and we had got learned used to it. That fear of the unknown was not there. The different type of fear of the death came in, and I'm sorry to. I also read about your father, so my condolences about that. But still, I think people are. I think today in a far more better kind of a mood today. I was talking to Dr. Shashank Joshi, who was heading the task force in Maharashtra today only. I was talking. He's saying things are much
Yeah.
better. We have to wait for maybe a month and a half. There may be a third wave, but it looks like the third wave will be muted compared to the second wave. Just now it looks like that. We have to hope for the best, but I'm quite optimistic that things will improve. And I think this quarter is going to be good. Next quarter, a lot depends on the third wave, but I, for one, believe that because of higher kind of higher vaccination rates as well as already a lot of people have got covered through infections. I think the impact of the third wave will be relatively much milder, but let's hope for the best. But overall, I would say I'm cautiously optimistic.
What are some of the, you have spoken and written about how actually, though things seem so bleak and it's been a very, very tough 16 months, there are opportunities in this moment. That COVID in itself throws up challenges, difficulties, and pain, but it also throws up opportunity, even from a business point of view. What are some of those
Yes.
opportunities?
So we have capitalized on those opportunities. If you see, these are trends which have got accelerated because of COVID. The trend towards the digital trend, which is whether it's your digital consultation or digital meetings or digital seminars, or digital commerce. We have gone overboard, especially as far as digital commerce is concerned. It's a big thing. Our sales have more than doubled in the last 1 year in digital commerce. and gives us a great opportunity to launch newer brands, which are known as D2C brands. So we acquired two brands in D2C areas. One is Beardo, and another is Just Herbs. And these are brands only sold through the e-commerce route. So we see good traction. We also have launched one or two of our own brands through the D2C route. So one is the digital, leveraging that, and work from home. So we will give up a lot of office space, which will save us at least 3-4 crores per annum in terms of lease rentals. A lot of
I
opportunity.
was going to ask you that. Do you think that big companies are not going to go back to work from work? And you see money saving in that, but a lot of cities around the world and in India worry that if economic centers, think there are other businesses that grow around workspaces, right? Whether it's food, whether it's transport, whether it's property, real estate. So as a promoter, you might be saving money, but the overall economy might be damaged if there's no return to work from work.
No, not really. I won't agree with you because what we have done in our office is we've gone hybrid, So we said that at least 2 weeks in a month you have to come, 2 weeks you can operate from home. So, but for a very small brand like Beardo, we have given an option while attracting talent. We are saying you can apply from anywhere in India as long as there is internet connection. So
Yeah.
in those kind of cases, there may be an impact in terms of urbanization, but otherwise, I think most offices cannot be completely work from home. Some businesses could be like IT at the lower end, but I think you'll have to have a flexible kind of a hybrid model, which will have benefits of both work from home as well as benefits of working together. And I think what I was referring was the hybrid model which we are going to implement. So to again go back to your question, what are the opportunities? I would say one is the digital cost structure. We also launched the health awareness has increased dramatically. So we have launched 3 new products this year. Also, our oats, which were launched, have got a huge fillip in terms of the sales. We launched Saffola honey, we launched Saffola proteins, and we also launched Saffola oodles, which is an answer to noodles, but in oats format. So we believe that the food portfolio will grow substantially this year itself. We expect the food portfolio to come to 400-500 crores, and over next 2 years we should be reaching 1,000 crores. And a lot of it is because of the push it got because of pandemic, and also the overall higher level of interest in healthy products.
Yeah, that's really interesting. But you have also said, and others in your fraternity have said that it's not as if the economy nosedived only because of the pandemic. There were structural challenges even before the pandemic in terms of reforms and in terms of opportunities for the government to actually seize this moment. What would you like to see in terms of changes in policy?
See, I think one is policies, and other is how the policies are executed. I think if you look at policies, I think you need to have smooth execution of policies, and I think that's where we need to improve upon. So whether it was GST or even IBC, or I think everywhere there is a problem, in terms of. So I think you have to think through what can go wrong and how can you expedite that. So I think it's just not what we want to do, but how we want to do is equally important. And some of the new policies which the government has given a little bit of break because of COVID, whether it's farming policy or labor policy. I think it's important that those issues are addressed and we move forward. Separately, we still need to do a lot more in the area of reforms, whether it's administrative reforms or agricultural reforms or judicial reforms, which are very, very important. So I think the journey has to continue. But whenever we launch reforms, I would say that we have to take all the stakeholders uh, into the whole movement and ensure
Yeah.
that they have a smooth kind of transition and execution is done in a proper manner.
Taking you back to your book, one of the comments that you made is that you never went abroad for a MBA, right? And
Yeah,
I'd be
yeah.
curious to know, because there are also questions I'm seeing in my live stream about leadership lessons that no business school, no B school ever teaches you. And I know that that's something you refer to in your book when I was reading it. What is it that you've learned from life that you think no business school, no MBA program can ever teach?
So we recruit a lot of MBAs, and today we must be having, I don't know the numbers, but at least 200, 250 MBAs. And I'm very comfortable interacting with them. I can speak their language. And whenever first time we have an MBA, we have management graduate training program, every year. So we have about 15, 20 MBAs joining us. And, I speak to them every year. I talk to them about the history of the company, but I tell them, first of all, you have to be very humble. just because you have passed out from a business school and you are so much in demand where best of the companies want to attract you, you should
Yeah.
be at ground and you should be learning. And learning can come at the lowest level, whether it is distributor or distributor sales rep, or if you're the factory level, the factory workman, you have to get yourself accepted. And I think that's a big change for them, because I think sometimes some of them success goes into the head because of the fact that, okay, so many people want to employ me. I started a salary of 20 lakhs, starting salary. So I think that's one. Number two, how do you develop your leadership style? Because that MBA doesn't teach, I've seen it. So you have to have leadership style, which is very participative, which is empowering, which is based on trust. And I think that's what we teach once the people come into working with us. And thirdly, I've seen young MBAs, they don't want to take risks because in the initial stages of their career, they feel that if I take a risk and if that risk doesn't work out for whatever reason, and if I have a failure, that will go against me in my biodata. So it's very important that they should realize that it's okay to fail. Multiple times, every person in this world has failed. But there is learning out of that failure. But if they say that I always
What's
want
the
to play
biggest
safe,
risk? What's the biggest risk you've taken? What's the biggest risk
I have
you've taken?
I have taken many risks. One risk I took was, two, three big risks was, okay, at the family level, asking to spin it off in a different company, the fight with levers.
Mm-hmm.
At some stage, there was a family separation in terms of financial separation, then buying over to my uncles, and I had to pay them money. So, multiple, these three, four risks I took. And the last risk which I took is, I can't call it such a big risk, is to pass on the baton from me to a professional in the organization. So now I am just a chairman, and I don't have
Yeah.
a operational role in the organization. So it's
Was
rare,
that very
relatively.
difficult? Was that very
It was
difficult at all?
tough. It was tough because from working full time in an organization, you want to spend about 20% of your time in the organization. It's tough from whether that person will be able to deal with it. Luckily, that person
Yeah.
has been with us for many years, so I had that confidence. What will I do with my time? Because I can't just sit home and relax or play golf every day. So I have to be fully occupied mentally. So luckily, I had sown a lot of new things, seeds before I stepped down, in terms of new businesses, in terms of giving back
What made you do
initiatives.
this though? What made you do this sort of emphasis variation on your own company of handing it over to a professional?
So two, three things. One is from the point of view of perpetuity. Every organization. I am a kind of person who believes in perpetuity. I don't want to sell out, even if I'm not there tomorrow. It's very
But you
clear
could have
that
handed it over to your children. You could have handed it over to your children like
yeah.
most family firms do.
So yes, that's the normal Indian way of doing things. But I always decide what is good for the company, and which I mentioned earlier. It is not my company, because I have a majority shareholding, or me and my family, but that doesn't mean it's my company. That means I have to do something which is in the interest of the company and not in my interest. So I had to select a person who was the best suited. And separately, my children, they were not ready, and they were also not showing any inclination because they have got some other. Both of them are very well settled in something which they have been doing, and they're very happy doing, and they're doing it extremely well there. And my daughter is a topmost canine behaviorist in Bombay, and on top of that, she is helping me run this mental health initiative, which is very large. My son is set up an investment office in which he's done extremely well. So my son is on board also. So we don't have an operational role, but it's gone to the professional, because the company is getting turned into a board managed company, so that in future, even if I'm not there, the board will start taking calls in terms of how to run the company, who's the best CEO to manage the company.
Yeah, and I think that's supremely admirable. I do want to ask you a couple of questions in the end. You say in your book and you've said in your interviews that you like doing business the old way. What is the new way that doesn't make you comfortable? What is the new way that doesn't make you comfortable?
The new way, which is I'm talking of the new age businesses, is just going after volumes, just going after turnover, and as your turnover increases, the losses increase, and I'm not able to digest that. So it's very difficult for me. I need to build a business. I'm not saying I have to start making money from day one, but I should have visibility over a period of 5 years that, okay, if I start a brand, will I start making money? At some stage, the growth has to be profitable. It has to be sustainable. And many a times I'm not able to see this. Maybe I'm not aware of what will make these companies make profitable. but that just going after growth and burning more and more money without realizing when you're going to turn it around is something which I'm not able to understand. So I would like to see returns in a certain time frame, so that whatever investments you're doing, it's and over a period of time as you go on growing, the loss on that should start getting reduced. But here in this case, most of them they're growing and the losses also are growing, and in spite of the valuations also grow. So it's difficult for me to understand that business model.
So, just a question in the end, you've spoken about how you don't believe in this new way of business always. You don't believe in just chasing the bottom line, just chasing volume. One of the very endearing things that emerged from my reading of the book was that your company used to have a popcorn hour, 4 p.m. every day. And I found that really a beautiful detail. Does it still exist, and how did it come about, and what was the thought behind it?
So we moved into a new office from the heart of commodity markets in Masjid Bandar to a swanky office in Bandra and the reclamation grounds, and there were no restaurants nearby. And I was keen to create some excitement in the new office. It was interconnected, the 2 floors. And I felt that if we did something like a popcorn machine, the whole office would come to know that the popcorn is being brewed, because you can smell the popcorn around the office. So it was just done out of excitement, and partly also because of the fact that there were no eating places nearby. It was a big hit because people would gather around that. It led to a lot of social bonding, discussing different things within cross-functionally. So it was a great thing. A lot of visitors also would come around 4 o'clock only just to have popcorn. So at that time, it was a big hit. But again, we moved in our office about 6-7 years back. And at that time, now we are in different floors, they're not connected. So we said that now we have had it for 15-20 years. So now let's go and to something which is not required now. So it worked out very, very well, I must say. It was a big talking point in corporate circles in India, at least, or in Bombay.
It's a lovely idea, and I think more and more of us should implement it. And these are some of the small things that the new digital age cannot bring back, that human contact. But Harsh Mariwala, it's been delightful talking to you. His book, Harsh Realities, is a fascinating account of how one of India's most successful corporations has been built from scratch. That is the important thing, built from scratch, which is not inherited, but actually created from scratch. Some of the most commonly known household items that we don't even pay attention to, how he made huge market successes out of them. Thank you, sir. Pleasure having you.
Barkha, just one last ending point, if I can add.
Yes, of course.
I think you had asked me about the opportunities in COVID time, and I forgot to mention that COVID played a very important role in terms of finalizing my book. I was very frustrated. I'm not an author. So then I sat with my wife, who has not written any book, but I must give credit to her for writing this book. She, making it from a simple and easy read, she also has brought in a lot of emotions and episodes, turning what would otherwise have been a very hardcore, dry and factual business chronicle into one with heart and soul. And for someone who has never written a book, I'm proud to say that she has done an exceptional job. And I can vouch, it hit the bestseller list on Amazon day one. And it's a very interesting book, written in a story format, and a lot of insights given by Professor Ramcharan, who is a renowned author. So I would say there is a lot of take-home value for students, for professionals, as well as entrepreneurs in this book.
Absolutely. It's written in a very conversational style, in fact, like a dialogue format with both of you. And the personal details are what bring it alive. So do congratulate your wife from all of us as well. Thank you. This was our first interview. Hope it's the start of many. Thank you. Thank you for being with us, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.